Hello and welcome to another edition of Wealthy and Wise. I'm your host, Cort Christie, CEO and founder of NCH. Today we're going to talk about planning for your business, laying down a framework so you know where your business is heading and going. And also for startups, it's critical that you have a game plan in place to know exactly whether you're going after the right part of your industry, how you're going to attack it, and what kind of financial results you should expect, and whether or not you even have the right business idea. And by putting a strong plan in place or a business plan, you will find out exactly what you need to create the trajectory for your success for your business. And I have an expert with us today, James Crothers, who has been working with small business owners on building plans for their business and documenting those plans. And it's amazing the kind of product that he puts out and has helped thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs put together. James, thanks for being on the program today. So let's break down the really basics here. When someone talks about building a business plan, what is a business plan?
Yeah, so a business plan, it's really more, people think of the document, right, that you kind of go into when you start it. But what a business plan is, it's about a business owner who's getting ready to get into this idea. They've laid it out. They have a general concept of where they want to go. A lot of times we'll even find they know what the end game is. So we ask them, what are you trying to accomplish when we get there? It's just the whole middle is kind of left out. They don't know what steps to take, what they're up against. So what a business plan is, it's just a document that allows not only the business owner, but all the parties that are supporting that business to be on the same page and to really understand and know exactly what steps they have to take in order to be successful.
And how do you use the business plan? Like, who gets to see it? Who works from it? How many pages are there in the business plan? Give us some dimension to this.
Sure. So business plans vary to the business, so it depends on what the objective is. So for example, if you are someone who is looking to raise capital, we may go a little bit more in depth in breaking down financials. If you're looking to bring on partners or certain relationships, affiliate partners, then we would be looking at how to structure that maybe a little bit differently, or we're targeting maybe a different outcome than someone who's just trying to raise capital with the bank. But overall, a business plan is on average about 40 pages. It's usually a very simple document. One of the things that we focus on here at NCH is we want to make sure the document is easily readable, that if it is, for example, to raise capital, when you hand that business plan off, within 5 minutes, they have a good scope of who you are as a business, who you are as an owner, what your goals are, and all that starts to come together. And we realize these plans can get as big as about 40 to 45 pages. But if we don't capture someone's attention in the first 5 minutes, they're probably never going to get to those really good points. So it's more about, after creating it, it's also about how we position it so that it's successful for that business owner, whatever their objective might be.
So this document, this guide, I'm going to call it, this business plan, is, do we consider it more for raising money? Or do we consider it more for as a tool to give you direction in the development of your business, an existing business, or even a startup?
I think it's both, right? So I think the two different scenarios would be as if we were going to go in, say, to a bank or to a lender. Really, it's not, the plan is not for them, where a lot of people get the mistake that I'm going to take a business plan to the bank and they're going to become knowledgeable. What you have to realize is that lenders, they already know the information, and what they're trying to figure out is, you as a business owner, do you know that information? So whether that plan gets directly handed to the bank as that presentation piece, or what we come into, I think, a lot more is, the individual goes to the bank and all of a sudden they're getting asked all these crazy questions, and the plan's there to help educate them. So they're going in there knowledgeable, they're able to answer very clearly on exactly what it is they're trying to do. And I think that's where we see the most success, because I always tell business owners, when you got a business plan, it's there to educate you, right? Because if you have any fogginess about any aspect of your business, it will play out, and most likely not in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. When someone decides to engage you for a business plan, I know there's a process, the intake, getting data from them, understanding what their business is, interviewing them, and then the building process of the plan itself. What would you say, are some of the biggest ahas that a business owner gets by going through this process with you?
I would think, especially as an advisor for many, many years, and one of the things that surprises us the most is we'll get somebody in and we'll start asking basic questions about how much money do you need to start your business and what are you going to do with that. And it's amazing that they really don't know. They're kind of looking to us for that support to figure out exactly what they need. But when we go through the process in full capacity, we've taken them through and we create this document, they become experts at that point. Now they're coming back and they're saying, hey, I didn't even realize this, or can we change this number? Now that we're getting, I think, into more real conversation, real dynamics of their business. Because it's one thing to kind of see it in your mind, it's another thing to see it on paper. And a lot of people get really surprised when they actually see the numbers, and then they can actually start to really critique it a little bit and help it. Maybe they have, now that they know what's possible, they might go, hey, I want to make this much instead of this. And so that's where the fun for us begins as advisors, is once we have the ground laid, right, we can then go in there and really start to articulate it, make it custom for them, and help them in making decisions on how they prepare to move forward.
So this is like a book in a sense when it's put together, and it's really a directional plan with a lot of different information. Could you break down, for our listeners, the simple components, sections, I guess, that you've got in your business plan? How do you describe what the outcome is and how they can reference it?
Yeah. So a plan, when you look at a 40-page document, we start with the basics, which is the contact information of that owner. And then we start to break down, what is the company? What is it about? What the mission statement is for the business. We spend a lot of time focusing in on products and services. What is the business going to be doing? And as we start to layer this, we have kind of in the beginning of the plan, it kind of summarizes what's in the plan. So that's the one thing that we've learned over the years, is to keep it very simple. Anybody can look at that plan and get a clear concept within 5 minutes. But then what starts to happen is like, okay, well, where did you come up with the way that you're going to distribute your products and services? How did you come up with your market, your demographics? And these are all different sections that we take a tremendous amount of time just to really break down and pull it apart. So my job as an advisor when I'm going through this process is to kind of poke holes in that story so that we can fix it before that owner goes out and they're actually facing someone that's really critical to their business.
Can you give me an example of the types of industries that you tend to do a lot of work with?
Yeah, I would say the primary one that we look at is real estate. Again, real estate is very diverse. A lot of people have moved into the real estate industry over the past 10 years, especially. We've seen dramatic increases. And I think what's made the business plan so special in that particular field is the fact that there's multiple types of real estate that you can get into if you're looking at, for example, someone who might want to go out and flip properties versus a long-term or short-term hold. Airbnbs become very popular. So with the business plan, we tend to really be able to hone in and help a lot of new investors become more knowledgeable about real estate in general, and then being able to really bring it into their world and their markets and what they're dealing with specifically. So I'd say that's probably one of our primary. Trucking is another very major industry that we deal with. A lot of people are trying to break away from this corporate concept and own their own trucks. And so there's a lot that goes into that. When you think of it high level, it sounds like it might be pretty simple. But when you get into the nuts, where's their truck coming from? How are they going to pay for that? How much money they need to survive the first, year in business and things like that. But I would say overall, there's not really an industry we haven't worked with. We're a pretty diverse company, all the way from restaurants to mechanic shops. So at this point, I would say that any industry is a great candidate for a plan, and we're certainly equipped to handle it.
So having helped entrepreneurs for 32 years now, and working closely with them on the development of their business idea and the evolution of it, we've had many clients take on a business plan on their own. And I know there's books out there on how to do it, and there's some websites to help kind of support you along the way also in doing it. But I will say this, having built my own business plans in the past, it's daunting.
Yeah.
Because you're presented with so much information that you have to compile and put together and then organize it in a way that's readable and makes sense. And then you start getting into financial projections, a marketing plan, an executive plan, all the different pieces that come together that give this document context and make it easy to read by somebody else. Really is benefited by having a guide along the way. And I think, for those people that want to do it yourself, wonderful. Take the time, learn all about it, build it and write it, but it is time consuming. How much time do you think you save the average business owner, if they were to take this on themselves and write this document on their own, the business plan, versus you kind of helping them go through this process, facilitating it, and really doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them?
So right now, the way a standard, I'll walk you through a normal process. So when someone comes on and we're getting ready to kind of start working with them, we work with the coordinator first. We have a coordinator who's really thoroughly trained to take, this kind of plethora of information and to really organize it in a way that makes sense. So the coordinator is that kind of one-on-one with the client throughout the whole process. Behind the scenes, we've got researchers, we've got financial experts, we've got the business plan writers. On average, it takes about 5 people to create one plan for our clients. In total, even with our time, we are still probably put a good maybe 50, 60 hours into that development. If someone was doing it on their own, we always tell them, allocate about 200 hours to really just research and development. And then, as you brought up, one of the challenges that, when you're doing it yourself is you tend to, if you don't know what you're doing, you tend to fluff it up, right? Or overcompensate. So a lot of the plans that we do see that were created by just the owner directly, we probably would take out about 80% of that content because it's not relevant. So one of the most important keys, whether you do it yourself or have a professional team, every paragraph, every sentence, it has to mean something. There has to be an objective as to why it's in there. And so the leaner the plan, the more readable it is. We've gone through, when we originally started, years and years ago, our plans were like 300 pages. And we had to go through that learning curve of clients saying, hey, this didn't work. And so what we have today is this really just streamlined document. Every paragraph is there for a very particular reason. And it's easy for us to explain to our client why it's there and for them to explain to a third party. So it's doable. It's just so much work in not just getting the information, knowing what's important and what's not important. And the problem I always feel that business owners have is they're so passionate about it that everything is important to them. And we have to kind of be the ones to go in and say, well, let's not talk about this. This isn't going to get you closer to that goal. And so it's heartbreaking for them sometimes to see some of that information leave. But the one thing we can always guarantee is it's going to be a quality plan that's going to move the dial forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting because of your experience, knowing what's important and what isn't, and to a brand new entrepreneur, they think, their location, they've got this great location and that's going to be everything for their business. Or they've got this incredible product and the wonderful product's going to be everything for the business. And we all know there's so much more than location or the product that you have. There's a business to run at the end of the day. And if you don't have clarity to how you're going to go about running that business and where you're heading and who your market is, you really aren't going to get anywhere. And even today, after 30 plus years of running several businesses, we still have a business plan. Now we call it a strategic plan at this point, where we're really looking at what's our 1-year plan and our 5-year plan for our organization, but it's still planning that goes on with executive leadership within the organization for forecasting what the future is, where our focus is going to be, where a new market or new growth's coming from. And this is for an established organization, with over 100 employees that are working for it at NCH. And we're still planning, still getting out there and getting into the weeds and working on the business. And it's critical for everyone listening. So whether you're just somebody brand new thinking about launching something, you need to spend time putting this in place for yourself. Is this a fixed document, James? Once it's done, what do you do as the model shifts?
Yeah. So it's not. So business plan is a working document and it's always changing because even as we get to a point where we feel like, hey, we've got a confident plan, we're ready to go to step, plan B or step 2, we always end up taking a step back, right? Nothing ever goes as planned. So it's important though, I think where the benefit comes in having a plan is when you make that leap and you go forward and you start working on it and something isn't going as you kind of hoped it would, you can always take a step back, but you'll never make that same mistake again. And we typically can clearly see what idea we had and what actually happened and kind of find that middle ground to be able to push them through. And I think that's probably one of the biggest advantages of a business plan is it's just a map that has documented your entire journey from this concept to actually getting the doors open and then running an actual business.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How often do you get a new customer in the door that's convinced that they have this amazing business and they come to you and you start working on the business plan and that you have to deliver maybe some bad news, that maybe the business isn't viable, that unless they change their pricing or their distribution or their costs organizationally, it's not ever going to make money.
I would actually say we get an opposite. Usually it's when we start working with the client and all that hits the paper, they pretty much understand, well, I'm not going to be able to raise that amount, or this doesn't make sense because it's costing us this much to create it. So I would say a lot of it, because of the document, ends up coming back to us because of the fact that we've taken the time to show them. Again, once it hits paper, their entire, especially if they're brand new to the process, everything changes once it's in front of them. That review process is probably more, we put more time into a review and a revise than sometimes we even do in the original creation of the plan.
Interesting. So this is a living document, not a fixed document.
Yes.
Well, I think what's so important for all of you viewers to know is that every business, from conception, from the idea stage, even into operations, needs a business plan, an ongoing document that helps support the direction that they're heading in and how they're going to go about it and how they're going to market and how they're going to sell, how they're going to price and how many employees and all the things that are so important to building out your business. But if you have an idea today and you're thinking about launching it, let me tell you, just back up one step, get a business plan prepared, because you're going to save yourself so much money in bad experiences and expenses that maybe didn't need to have to spend, or costs you didn't have to put money into, things that you could have saved a ton of money on just by having the plan. The other thing that I'm going to tell you is at NCH, the service that we have in building out business plans and Jim's team that works on the business plans for our clients, they do an amazing job. It's incredible, but they save you so much time. They save you so much in bad decision-making in the launch of your business just by taking one step back and saying, before I launch this new business, I'm going to get a business plan put together by professionals that know how to design this correctly and are going to talk to you, interview you, learn about what you're trying to do and what you think the business is. Then they're going to start putting information together, get it back to you for another conversation as you start to really sort of massage out how your business is going to roll out. And that's going to save you a fortune in time and real hard dollars at the end of the day. So James, thanks for coming on the program today. I appreciate you coming in and educating our viewers. And for all of you listening, there's no better time than to get a business plan set up for yourself than today. If you've got a business idea, talk to us at NCH. We'll help you, we'll guide you, and you'll be amazed at how inexpensive it is to hire a professional team like James's team to work with you to get your business plan built. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Cort Christie, CEO and founder of NCH, and thanks for another edition of Wealthy and Wise.